Welcome back. Another little hiatus. I managed to get myself sick again right before Christmas this time. Hooray, hooray. So I was sick all through Christmas. Ended up with a sinus infection that the antibiotics are having a hard time getting rid of. So I'm actually on my third different type of antibiotic, which seems to be working finally. So I apologize if I'm a little groggy and sniffly today, but that's kind of what I'm working with. So during the last couple weeks, I have managed to get a little bit done here and there, just when I felt up to it. I got the dipstick on the transmission in, the fuel lines are wrapped up, got that good to go, throttle body's on, everything's wired up here. The wiring harness is sitting on it the way I like it. I have not done anything down here yet because I'm still waiting I'm going to jack it up so I can get it up, put the starter on it. I got the Russell fuel rail adapters there, the ones that have the screw on so they don't come flying off like everybody seems to have problems with. And that's pretty much all I've got going on right now. I decided I'm going to go ahead and hold off on the wiring. It was giving me fits. I'm a perfectionist, so I was spending way too much time trying to figure out how to do that instead of just getting stuff done, because I've got a baby coming and I just want to get stuff done as much as possible. So right now I'm going to put the wiring on hold and I'm going to work on mechanical stuff right now and get everything lined out. I still got the engine centered in here, so I'm going to hook it up to the cherry picker, pick it up just a little bit and tweak it because it's just ever so slightly, I think it's pointing just that way, maybe a degree or so. So I'm going to pick it up, slide it around, I'm going to get underneath it, get the transmission centered on the cross member, get everything good to go there. And just kind of get general mechanical stuff done. I am going to work on the wiring eventually, and I'll put a picture up on the screen here real quick of what I'm kind of thinking here. So it's going to have I'm thinking over here, I'm going to put one of those Bussmann 5 relay, 10 fuse 5 relay fuse boxes that everybody seems to be running these days. I talked to a buddy of mine who owns a shop, and he specializes in wiring, so I may have him do it. He's pretty booked up, so I don't know. We're going to see. I need to talk to him again and see what's going on with that, because I've got 2 fans here. I'm going to go ahead and put the headlight harness into that because I was going to buy an American Auto Wire relay kit for that anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and put the headlights in there, and then I'm going to put the fuel pump in there as well. So I'm going to remove the fuel pump off of the PSI harness in there, just take the trigger wire, I'm going to route it through the bulkhead here and down here to here so that I can have all my fuses related to this in one place instead of 2. So there'll still be a fuse inside that runs all of the ECM and everything like that, all the switched ECM, but everything else, fuel and fan and headlights related, will be up here just together as a unit. I don't like clutter. I don't like things every which way. So I thought that would be a nice little addition. The American Auto Wire does actually have a wire that came out here for the fan, and it was just switched ignition. It was like an accessory, I think. I used that to trigger my fans before, so I'll probably just repin it on the bulkhead over here, and then just tag it on the backside and run out to the ECM down there. So that's kind of where that wiring is at. It's just consuming too much time, so I'm going to back burner that for a little bit, and I'll get back to that. So inside the truck here, I ended up buying a drive-by-wire adapter to mount the drive-by-wire pedal, that is. I ended up buying this off of a fellow member on the C10 forums. I'll be honest, I paid way too much for this thing. He's definitely not going without food on his table. I do a lot of, I build conveyors, so we do a lot of fab work. My thing was just time. I didn't have time to be messing with this, so it was just easy to just buy it and bolt it in. Although it doesn't fit super great. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, I know this is meant to fit like 67 through 72 trucks, so they've got different bolt patterns and everything like that, but it's sitting over too far. It's got these 2 holes over here. I don't know if you can see those there, but that there is supposed to be, around the steering penetration here, there's a box out. It's kind of this ridge right here, this rib. And that's supposed to texture down to that, but it's off by like a ½ an inch. So I don't know what's going on. If I moved it over a ½ an inch, it wouldn't fit back here in this corner because it would hit the crease there, and the pedal would hit down here. So I'm not sure what's going on. So I think I'm going to kind of adapt it to fit. So I'm going to abandon these here, and I think I'm actually going to just, you really can't see it, but the top screw in the pedal actually lines up with the rib that's back there. So I'm just going to tech screw it in. That'll be fine. Like I say, I do this all the time for work. So this is probably about, I don't know. They punch these, so that actually costs a little more in labor. I put these on a laser table and just burn all those holes in there. And then, paying a guy to, set up a jig to make these bends. They're nothing fancy. I think they're both, well, no, they're not 90s. They're probably more like a 80 degrees, something like that. But anyway, you're looking at maybe $20 out the door. Obviously that's my cost. I do many hundreds of thousands of pounds of steel a year, but he's probably not getting that good a deal down there. But anyway, nonetheless, I don't want to ramble on the guy too hard. He's doing a good service to the community and making these brackets. I bought one, so makes life easier. Just sometimes as it works out, you don't have time to make things yourself, and I'm okay with that. It used to drive me nuts, and it still pains me a little bit, but the product's a nice product. It works. The pedal works. So, but anyway, that's kind of what I've got going on in here. I kind of cleaned up the wiring in here because it was just a mess, a sea of wires. They're still all up here right now. That's everything for the ECM and the Dakota stuff, but that's a project for another day now. But I just want to show that how it's going to work. Still don't know if this pedal is going to work with this tack module, but I did test fit, and the adjustable pedal, if I take that thing, as ugly as it is, but you won't see it's underneath the dash, if I take the adjustable linkage out of it and just put in a piece of a bar, threaded rod, I can make that thing and fix it, and it will actually fit all up in here. So it's kind of honky and wonky looking, but if that's where I got to go, that's where I got to go, unless I can program that out of the computer. So, but that's it for inside the truck right now. All right, got the truck up in the air. I did quite a bit of work underneath it. Nothing exciting, just kind of boring stuff. Got the speed sensors in the transmission, both the input and output. Kind of figured out some wiring routing for the harness that goes underneath from the LS back down to the tunnel. And I sent it up the transmission so I could get the cherry picker back out and just pick this up ever so slightly. And basically what I did was I took the tension off the mounts, and I was able to center the engine left to right, and I actually slid it back just a smidge, like an eighth of an inch, nothing big. So that's all torqued down. It's good to go. I got the torque converter bolts in. They are torqued down, good to go. I ended up having to use Circle D has what they call an 1/8 inch pullback. They want an 1/8 inch clear between the flex plate and the lugs on the torque converter when it's pushed all the way back in the transmission. I actually had a 1/4 inch, so they included some shims, some 1/8 inch shims, so I put those in there, so everything's torqued down. The starter is there just for mock-up purposes. I ran the wires down for there's 2 lugs there that power the ECM, and then there's actually the truck. There's the purple wire is the starter solenoid wire, and then there's you can see it's brown down there, but that's a fusible link. That actually powers the bulkhead, which powers everything in the truck. Still got to run a wire from the alternator over here, because the starter is actually the junction point on this truck. Well, that's a different day, so I'm kind of putting that on the back burner for now. Actually, today I'm working on some brake stuff. I saw that Travis at Pro Performance had put a video on Instagram about checking the pushrod depth on your booster and master. So what I did, he has a tool that he's selling. It's a Bear tool, and it's $50, and I'm just too cheap. So I did the old-fashioned way with some calipers and some math. The only straight edge I had that small was a set of drywall blades here. I know the thickness of them, so I set them in there, use my dials to see, check the pushrod depth with relation to the face here, which is the same face here, and then check this here. This has actually got the bullet in it right now, and this has got the short pushrod in it. It also came with just a one-piece pushrod, so you don't have to use a bullet. And oddly, when you use the short pushrod and this bullet, it's actually a little bit longer than this one here. So, but I just did all the math here, and you can see it all here. So ends up being that this one here is actually 0.065 short. I think you're looking for 0.02-ish So this one's actually a little too short. I'm going to have to call Willwood on that and see what their recommendation is. The two-piece one here, when you get the short one, and the bullet is actually too long. It is 0.046 too long, so that's a no-go. So it's either this one will be good. I'm going to call Willwood and check on that, or this one I can actually take this bullet out of here and just shave the back down a little bit so I can get the proper clearance. So, but I just kind of want to show you how I did it. Just reference points. I know I can measure. I know the thickness of this, so I can measure from the top of that to this and subtract the thickness of that to get where that is in relation to that. And same thing over here. So it's this one's got a couple more steps, but you can check from the dish of that bullet to this face or this face and just kind of keep track of your numbers and see where you're at. And your end goal is getting the relation between the face here and the bottom of that dish there. So that's what I did. Saved myself $50. It's a cool tool, and I think it's pretty neat that they have that, but I don't do brakes ever. So I just wanted to get it done, and I'll give them a call tomorrow and see what the appropriate length needs to be. Well, I apologize. This has kind of been another boring video. Just kind of tedious, and the fact I don't really feel that good, so I've just kind of been just working through it. Put the booster in here. I know we were just talking about it, but I put it in here just because I wanted to put it in. Also, to kind of show that there is plenty of clearance here between the coils and the booster. I got more than 2 fingers clearance there. Everybody talks about how they don't fit. Got to use a smaller diameter booster. Well, they fit. They fit just fine. I think it's just a marketing ploy to sell smaller boosters and those brackets that put the booster right on the firewall. But I don't want any of that nonsense, so I wanted to kind of stock. I know the brakes worked, and I'm just going to go back with it. So one thing to note, I did switch out the check valve. On these old trucks, and I'm assuming the cars, this was a 3/8 inch check valve, 3/8 inch barb fitting, that is. This is a new one, obviously, from Tough Stuff, but it had the 3/8 barb fitting. The back of the manifold in the LS is a 1/2 inch barb fitting. So did some digging, found out that there is actually a GM part that fits into the old boosters and has a 1/2 inch barb fitting here. So I'll put a link in the description below for that. Other than that, it's just been kind of a boring day, kind of plugging along. I'm trying to see if anything jogs my memory here. I did work on the brake or the power steering lines here. So this is actually the stock line, and it went up and it kind of turned, and there was no way you're going to get onto here. So what I did, since this is actually there's no pressure in this, or very little there is, I went ahead and cut it, and then I used my flaring tool and just put a bubble flare on the end there. It's still loose, but so now I can just go whoop, right up there and have a short little line. I did try to work on the new line that I bought, and unfortunately my flaring tool requires about this much straight for the die to clamp onto it. So that where I wanted to cut it and flare it wouldn't work. There was just not enough room. So I'm gonna take that out to the hydraulic shop and see if maybe they have a shorter die or something that can put that flare on there for me. Otherwise, I want to figure something out. I've even thought about putting a right angle fitting on the back of that pump to get the line out there, because even the stock line that came with the truck doesn't fit. It hits the motor mount here, as well as this little boss right here that's on the side of the block. There's just no way to get it in there and turn that corner. I know I'm not the only guy that's ever done this with a LS and a C10, so I'm going to do some digging around and see what everybody does. Kind of get that figured out so I can get these lines finished up. One thing I did neglect to talk about when I was under the truck and the transmission, right now I just have actually the transmission cross member is just sitting in there. It's not bolted in yet. It's just because it sits up on top of the frame rail, or inside the frame rail, inside the channel, that is. And it has just a part store, $6 mount in it right now. I'm going to switch that out for one of these energy suspension polyurethane bushings, just because they have that integral clip in them. So if things go south, at least the transmission is not going to come off and start flailing around like my last one did there. So, excuse me. And then also, I need to check, once I get it up on the lift, and see where my drive shaft angles are. If I remember correctly, I think the rear end was just under 3 degrees up. And I'm thinking this transmission's probably there or even more down. So What I was going to do is just put some shims underneath the mount just to kind of shim the motor where it need to be. And if need be, I'll buy some shims for the rear end to kind of adjust the angle on it too, to kind of get everything in spec. So kind of getting close to that point where we're going to start messing with the drive shaft. Don't know if I'm going to shorten the drive shaft that came out of this, because this actually had a Turbo 400 in it, so same drive shaft yoke. If I'm going to shorten it or what, I'm still debating. When I rebuilt this rear end, I reused the stock 1310 pinion yoke. You know, not even thinking about the motor I was going to put in it. I was just going to drive it with the small block in it for a while and just have fun with it. But I don't think that 1310 is probably going to be enough. So I don't know. I don't really want to take that rear end back apart, because that was the first time I've ever built the rear end, and I want it to be my last. I don't really have any desire to do another one. But I think I'm going to have to take it apart to put a new pinion yoke on there. I've seen a lot of guys just take the nut off, swap the yokes out, just torque it back down, and roll with it. But it'd be my luck something would whine or we'd have problems. So don't know what I'm going to do there yet, but that's, you know, a video for another day. But anyway, I appreciate everybody watching. Please like and subscribe if you'd like to. Share it. Please ask any questions, any comments, concerns, anything you see that I'm doing wrong. Please let me know. Anything questions you have, I'll try my best to answer. I just scour the internet and have a good group of friends that I pester a lot. So, but anyway, I do appreciate everybody watching, and we will see you next time.